Yo, what's happening, people? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you lot are all doing well today, man. Welcome back to the channel. I've already said welcome back. Welcome to today's video, which is talking about Chelsea's two young, well, relatively young in Ruben's case, superstar midfielders in Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Mason Mount. Now, I have a problem, man. If you watch this channel and you know me, you'll know that I'm a Ruben Loftus-Cheek super fan. So good at ball progression, incredibly strong, fast, he's a goal scorer, he's good at assisting, he's good at combining with other flair players. I think he's absolutely wicked. He was awesome under Maurizio Sarri last season before he got injured. I love Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And he's fit again. Superb. I did a video fairly recently talking about how Chelsea might line up after the resumption of football, and I've put him in the midfield over Mason Mount. And I'm kind of feeling more and more uncomfortable as I reflect on that decision. Only because Mason Mount, although I prefer Ruben Loftus-Cheek as a player, Mason Mount is so important with how Frank Lampard plays football and how he wants to play football in terms of the pressing midfield and the high-octane, explosive, energetic, mobile midfielder. That's making me ponder the question a little bit more closely. So in this video today, I want to talk about Mason Mount and Ruben Loftus-Cheek, how they both feature in this Chelsea side and how they would develop in this Chelsea side, and then pose the question to you guys after I've made the case for both players, who should play, who should fit into the team. And we need to remember how Mason Mount was playing towards the latter stages before football paused, which was incredibly well. And you might have to thank Billy Gilmour for that, but maybe that's a good chemistry thing, which I guess we'll talk about as well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to discuss when it comes to these two players, especially when comparing them. They're both really talented and highly rated. When you see like pundits and external figures talking about Chelsea and Chelsea's future, they always say, well, you know, your Tammy Abrahams, your Mason Mount. And I was frustrated that they were leaving out Ruben Loftus-Cheek, this immensely talented offensive footballer. But I'm kind of stuck in a bit of a rut now. Just a quick moment to remind you guys to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Hey, only if you want to, man, but if you do choose to, please hit that all-important bell notifications icon, and why not like this video to help me out. Alright, let's get into this content. Mason Mount hails from the Chelsea Academy, incredibly young, only 21 years old, a wealth of footballing experience in the first team, playing out in Holland, doing very well out there, playing down in the Championship, doing very well there, and of course being a hugely important player this season for Chelsea's first team, playing under coach Frank Lampard, the son of Lampard in many ways, like Jorginho was the son of Sarri. Here's an interesting piece of trivia for you. CIES, or C's, if you pronounce it like that, Observatory, has an estimated transfer value of, hold on, 102.5 million euros for Mason Mount, making him one of the most highest valued midfielders in world football. Now, I think this is something to do with him playing at a big club like Chelsea, probably being English as well, being young, and also being on a long-term contract. I think they're all the factors it considers, because over 100 million euros for Mason Mount at the moment seems a bit of a stretch. Still, I love the player and he's very important to the club, and we'll get onto that in a moment. And in the other blue corner, I guess, we have Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Less first team experience, he's had a bit of a difficult career actually at Chelsea and has had a loan at Crystal Palace, which was really good for him, but generally his first team experience is relatively limited at the more seasoned age of 24 years old. Saying that though, he did absolutely explode playing under Maurizio Sarri, combining down that left flank with both Eden Hazard and at the time and in form Emerson Palmieri. He looked very good. He was, not even arguably, he was Chelsea's most dangerous outfield player behind Eden Hazard, and often when Eden couldn't do it, Ruben was doing it. Yes, he was that important. So he's another massive player for Chelsea. So at the moment, you know, two different stories, two players hailing from the Chelsea Academy, feel-good stories, both very talented. So, let's do a straight up comparison for a second. Look at these two graphics from understat.com comparing Mason Mount to Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I've used Ruben's season in the Premier League last season, so we've got a decent sample size, and Mason Mount this season. Off the bat, Ruben's better. Basically, Ruben's offensive metrics, and indeed his ball progression metrics, generally are all a lot better than Mason Mount. I know he's a few years older, and also he was playing with the likes of Eden Hazard, which has to be included in this discussion, in this comparison. So, someone like me who loves Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and he's certainly passed the eyeball test before I even looked at these metrics, I'm like, yeah, that kind of validates what I'm saying, what I feel about Ruben Loftus-Cheek. This is something that I'm always saying, and fair enough, it's a bit of a dig at Man United fans, but I'm gonna say it again. Ruben Loftus-Cheek got the same amount of goals in the Premier League last season from open play as Paul Pogba, in less than a third of the minutes Paul Pogba had, and they were both occupying the same part of the pitch, and it was widely regarded as a sort of explosive time for Pogba at United, playing under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, yet Ruben comes out here, gets the same open play goals in a fraction of the minutes, being an absolute game changer for Chelsea Football Club. So, at this point you're thinking, well Jan, you've completely talked up Ruben, surely he starts in the left centre mid spot in Frank Lampard's primary starting 11, Mason Mount sadly has to sit on the bench, right? Well, wrong, maybe. The thing is, it's all very well having effective individual players, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek absolutely is an effective individual player. But I've cited it before and I'm going to talk about it again, Liverpool. Now, Liverpool they've beaten the Premier League, right? They've completely annihilated it. In football's current climate, in football's current form in the Premier League, it cannot seem to deal with Liverpool Football Club's functionality. And Frank Lampard's talked about this often before. It's to do with the flanks, how they operate, how it's the fullbacks and the wingers do all the work for Liverpool. Hell, even their striker is a false nine, which kind of is a defensive pressing midfielder almost in Firmino, or a defensive striker pressing midfielder. What I'm trying to say is the rest of their midfielders, they're not glamorous at all, they're functional. They pretty much work systemically to ensure the flanks can do the business. Think of Henderson, Wijnaldum, and even Fabinho. It's not very sexy. Ruben Loftus-Cheek's playstyle is very sexy. Now, let's bring it back to Mason Mount just for a second. Mason Mount is an incredibly functional midfielder. Although he might not have these really good ball progression metrics, he is a superstar, high-octane, pressing midfielder. And for my money, this might be a little bit of Chelsea bias, but I've maintained it for a long time. Mason Mount is the best pressing midfielder in the Premier League. He knows how Frank Lampard wants to play. He often turns over possession, but he closes down all passing lanes. He prevents the opposition player who's in possession from having space. He's incredibly mobile, more mobile than Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Ruben is fast and strong once he gets going, but the fact how Mason Mount is tough and nimble and can get the ball back, he can be a lot more helpful in the systemic offensive play than Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, for me, is a player that can pick up the ball from deep, drive forward, batter players out of the way, and score a goal, which is great. In fact, not only is it great, it's what Chelsea were missing when they didn't have a plan B, when they couldn't break team down. In fact, it's not only great, it's the exact thing Chelsea have been missing this season when they can't break down an opposition defence. You need someone to batter through and curl it in the top corner, like Ruben Loftus-Cheek did last season, a little bit like Eden Hazard, but where Eden Hazard would glide through, Ruben can sort of barge through a little bit more. I don't see him as this nimble, pressing, systemic, functional midfielder like Mason Mount, and the more and more I watch their games and reflect on it, if you have a systemic plan with a way football moves, like a philosophy, I think you use Mason Mount, but if you need someone more individual play that can just sort of express themselves a little bit more, you go for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. This is the exact reason, I think, why Maurizio Sarri was reluctant for such a long time to play Ruben Loftus-Cheek, even though he was so effective. He's a dogmatic, philosophical coach, Sarri, that needs a system to be played, but the likes of, Hudson-Odoi and Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who were starters in his team by the end, they had to force their way in through quality. They're not the sort of, I guess, systemic, philosophical players. They're more expressive players. Frank Lampard does like his forwards to express themselves when moving forward. So I think ultimately Ruben Loftus-Cheek will probably win the war, but I'm still have my doubts because Mason Mount is so important. If you said to someone who's the most important player to Frank Lampard's football, in my head, I think Mason Mount. I just think Mason Mount, the wingers can change, the striker can change. Reece James is going to be massive, but at the moment, in terms of a player who knows what to do when and can, you know, do what Frank Lampard wants, I just think Mount. So that's difficult to drop, even for someone like the likes of Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And sure, Mason Mount wasn't amazing for a while, but before football paused, playing with Billy Gilmour behind him, he looked excellent again. Hell, even Barkley looks good next to Billy Gilmour. That's just a joke. I don't dislike Ross Barkley at all. Anyway, I'm getting muddled here. Basically, my case for Ruben Loftus-Cheek is I'm a bit of a fanboy, but he's effective as more of an individual type of player, and Mason Mount seems to be the best sort of system midfielder that perhaps Chelsea have. In fact, definitely. So I want to roll it over to you guys and get your thoughts and opinions on this. Who would you put in? Some people were going to say Ruben, probably a lot, but some people would say Mason Mount, especially if you think of how he was playing, you know, the last couple of games Chelsea played. So I want your thoughts and opinions on this topic, this comparison, this battle between these two midfielders. Who would you start? Who's going to ultimately win the war? Get down in the comment section below and let me know your opinion on that. If you've enjoyed this comparison video today, please do like this video. That means a lot to me, man, and subscribe to Football Therapy if you've not yet done so. And as always, a plug for my social media at Football Yannick on both Instagram and Twitter. Come follow me on Instagram at Football Yannick. That's it from me, lot. Enjoy the football that's happening in just a couple of days' time, and I will see you later.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.